So hello everyone and welcome to our webinar, Mastering AI with Kontent.ai, a CISO's guide. Today we will be talking about the evolving AI landscape, some changing standards and approaches to AI. How do you manage a secure approach to AI? What do we mean by responsible AI? And finally, we'll share some resources with you. So I'm joined today by Maciej Zachar. He is the Chief Information and Security Officer at Kontent.ai. And I am Jordan Torpy. I'm a Product Marketing Manager at Kontent.ai. So to begin with, Maciej, I'd like to talk a little bit about how the AI landscape has been changing. We're a little more than a year in since ChatGPT was released and it kind of took the world by storm. But we've seen a lot of change recently. So do you want to talk a bit about what the current landscape looks like?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So we've seen generative AI evolving over time, and there were AI applications even before that. But yeah, you're right in saying that the last year was very transformational for many people as the general public kind of embraced that technology and started using it for various applications. And what is also true is that also the industry, and especially like tech industry, reacted very rapidly, and many vendors started incorporating AI in various shapes or forms to their portfolio. So some of the implementations they seem rather simple, simplistic, let's say, where they would only have some sort of co-pilot type of chatbot or something of that sort that that only extends the existing functionality, but not by a large bit. But then there are vendors that take it a little bit more complex and embrace AI in all their, let's say, tech offering, which is actually the way that also Kontent.ai has taken, where we decided as a headless CMS platform for content creators and managers that is not only that the creation of the content that is important, but it's also the entire content governance and all the workflows that relate to the content that are actually important, and they are something where AI can be of help in terms of streamlining, automating, or just making the process really smoother. So that's been the landscape from my perspective, and from my perspective as a chief information security officer. For me, it's also important to understand what are the challenges and what are the risks involved. And what I will say is that we are in a very interesting situation as security professionals, because we really need to get it right the first time, as many of these threats are emerging, and a lot is still kind of unknown or evolving very quickly. So I would say that one of the main concerns is that that ultimate question, like what goes in and what goes out from the model, but also addressing upskilling of our security teams, and making sure we have enough knowledge and expertise, as well as watching regulatory landscape, how that develops and evolves, and making sure that we stay abreast and stay compliant, most importantly, with all those regulations that are coming.
Yeah, you really had a front row seat this whole time to everything that's happening, isn't that true?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so talking about the changing regulatory environment, I know, like I said, you've seen this all happen from the front lines. Could you tell us a little bit about what you've seen? What's been changing? What have you noticed?
Yeah, so we've seen very rapid development of regulation and rapid, I would say, adoption and talks about AI in general in various regulations, whether it's been in the European Union, the AI Act that actually was released in December last year, or President Biden's executive order on safe, secure, and trustworthy AI. These have been just a few that really that really appeared, and other regulators all around the globe are in the meantime talking about their approach to regulating those. So So yeah, it's evolving, it's ever present, and it's the change really happens very fast because it's sad. It was just a matter of months before these were actually released.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So then, as a way to deal with this rapid environment of change, we encourage using vendor agnostic best practices. Could you tell us a little bit about some of those?
I think I think the best approach is kind of to address those regulatory requirements obviously as they come, but have a solid foundation about secure AI and trustworthy AI from the very beginning using the industry best practices. So in line of that, there was a certain development around those, and here we are mentioning at least two of them. So KPI framework is something that actually was based on the early drafts of the EU AI Act and kind of elaborated a little bit on what it means in terms of controls being implemented and the risk being measured in terms of all these AI technologies. And then the risk management of AI is also addressed by the AI risk management framework by National Institute of Standards and Technology in the United States. So these have been laying the foundations for industry best practices on the development of secure and responsible AI as well.
Sure.
And yeah, what I can also comment on is that apart from those, let's say, foundational standards, there have been a lots of different organizations and groups involved in creating different frameworks and different approaches to actually addressing AI risks. So what I can mention here as two also very important ones. One of it will be the MITRE Atlas framework that addresses the threats that are out there for LLMs and for generative AI in general. And then, of course, OWASP that brought us AI Security and Privacy Guide, addressing some of those best practices from a different perspective. So I will say that following those recommendations and practices can be immensely helpful, especially when you're building your foundations of being compliant to those regulations that keep coming, because many of them have very similar kind of way of thinking about the AI risk and addressing that proportionally. So that's always helpful.
Sure.
And yeah, I will say that there is also large advantage in the frameworks that are already existing and were existing before AI came about. And that's really just security and privacy by design, because many of those principles, security principles of protection of confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and of course making sure that the personal information, PIIs or personal data, however we call it, are protected. These are ever present and can be applied in the same manner or with slightly different tweaks for any AI implementation as well. So following those and having those kind of baselines correct is immensely helpful. And those best practices can be absolutely taken to anything you do with the AI, whether it's development, internal development, or just usage of the model.
Yeah, could you say maybe a little bit more about the needs of, say, people who want to use these models, but not necessarily incorporate them into their own solution? They just want to use them to create content or something like that.
Yeah, I would say that it will depend where they are, but if they are just users of the application, they can absolutely adapt to the similar principles that are out there. So there is this concept of shared responsibility model where also a customer takes some part of responsibility for their usage of whatever tool that is out there, but in this context would be AI, because obviously the vendor can only make certain guarantees or think about certain use cases, but in many cases, the particular use case or implementation or usage of AI, because it's such a versatile technology, right? Can be very, very individual. So consumers and customers using AI and understanding how the model was built, according to which standards, and also what are some of the guardrails that are already out there, and how should they behave with the model is immensely important. What I will say is that there is that ultimate concern about what goes into the model and what goes out of it. And I think this is something that that needs to be properly understood by the generative AI user or consumer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that kind of leads us nicely to this next point, which is what are some of the key elements of using AI securely? What are some things you should consider and think of when you're going to use AI? I think we can start by talking about data governance.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it's essentially what I just said. It's about ensuring that you have very good understanding what goes into the model and what goes out of it, what happens with the data that goes out of it, and also what happens in between, to some extent, because it can be very complex issue, and the models. Yeah, to some extent, it's a no joke. It's really a complex technology that we are talking about. But at the same time, the what we can control, which is the input and output, is something that needs to be properly understood. We need to understand whether the provider of whether it's a foundational model or the vendor that took that foundational model and built the application on top of it, whether it's gonna train that model on the data that we supply, which is an ultimate concern. I would say, like, the top one concern that I hear when it comes to generative AI. So this needs to be properly understood, and we need to understand what kind of data can we and are we willing to feed the model with, and for which scenarios, use cases, and what's our kind of risk tolerance or risk appetite on those scenarios. Are we willing to take that risk? Are we fine with that? And then, of course, also what happens with the data afterwards. Is anybody verifying it, checking that no hallucinations have been produced, or like we got covered, let's say, the integrity of the output and what happens with it. That's something that is extremely important for secure AI usage.
Sure. But beyond data governance, there's also the concern of some AI-specific threats that you might face. Could you kind of describe what some of those might be, what they might look like, and what you can do about them?
Yeah, I would say that two of those that are most discussed nowadays, one of them would be prompt injection, and the other would be training data poisoning or just data poisoning. Where for the prompt injection, we are talking about specific attacks that enable the attacker to make model act or behave in a different way that was intended to, or to disclose some of the data. Let's take, for example, training data that again, like the model was not intended to provide that kind of insight or information. And you can do that by various techniques, and this is ever evolving, and it's always kind of a little bit about who is kind of further, whether it's the attacker or the provider of the foundational model, or the vendor that actually builds those guardrails into that model. Because there are new studies, new attacks coming up very often, and the vendors kind of need to really react on those to be prepared for this kind of attack vector. And it can be very, very powerful, because if you really do not do that properly, you can really make that model create some data that is not genuine, that is sometimes even false, or can be misleading. And for example, for us as a vendor of headless CMS, where the content is absolutely essential for for our customers to be handled properly. The misuse, such as through prompt injection, could lead to misleading outputs, misleading content that they create and promote. It can lead to fake news. It can lead to even like immoral or not or really a content that you do not want to have in your website to start with, right? So that is something that that needs to be addressed by both vendor implementation, but at the same time also by proper usage of the model and recognizing that the technology is not it is powerful technology, but at the same time we still need humans to verify and make sure that that the outputs that are being produced are usable and according to what the intent was by the customer. So that would be the prompt injection. And for just shortly on the data poisoning, that kind of involves injecting, poisoning the data that the model was trained on, usually by some information that is either not accurate or misleading by intent. So you would do that in order to make the model produce like hallucinations or like falsified information. And this is something that again needs to be addressed by creators of the foundational model or by the implementation, depending on how the model operates and what kind of data it uses. And it needs to be recognized as an attack vector and properly addressed by controls.
Sure. Yeah, and maybe we can round this out with a little bit about responsible and secure AI principles and how that can help you keep your AI usage secure.
Yeah. So yeah, that's an interesting point, because I was talking about security and privacy mostly, but over the last year and even before that, when building those foundational models, many of the providers were following principles of responsible AI, and I think that is something that goes a little bit beyond just security and privacy. It's kind of combination of elements to make sure that the model is acting in an intended and ethical and unbiased, secure manner, that we can trust it. Ultimately, I think that's the ultimate goal, that we can trust the model, that we can trust the application, that will provide inputs that are actually useful and not misleading. So yeah, if we follow those principles, that's something that addresses both security and also the usability of the model at the same time.
Sure. Yeah. And at Kontent.ai, we have our own set of responsible AI principles. So it'd be nice if we can maybe look at those and go through them.
Yeah, sure. So to start with, we have guaranteed customer data privacy and security. So it's by using those foundational elements of security and privacy by design, as I mentioned earlier, in this secure software development lifecycle that we utilize from the very beginning. It is that actually matters in this context, and we want to make sure that also our AI implementation and all the functionalities that we bring towards our customers are addressing those both privacy and security as well, and really building that from the very foundation and not as an afterthought. So that's something that is extremely important for us, and we just kind of extended that to everything that we did with AI, or that everything we are doing right now. Shared responsibility model. I talked about this a little bit before when I mentioned the responsibilities of consumers or users of the AI system. We need to make sure that we understand our responsibilities as a vendor, that this complements very well with the suppliers of our AI models, wherever applicable, and that also this gets translated very well to our customers, so that there is complete transparency between what kind of guardrails or controls we are putting in place, what kind of safeguards have we followed, and how the customers should be utilizing the AI technology that we bring to the market. I think that's essential for us to really bring that transparency forward and make sure that customers understand what their responsibilities are, and also where they can rely on our implementation, or what we kind of guarantee as a baseline. And there is also AI governance that needs to be ever present for any AI implementation and usage. And for us internally in Kontent.ai, we have implemented that through set of policies. We have a responsible AI committee that consists of stakeholders from different areas, and really takes those industry best practices and follows those regulations that are out there, that are coming, to make sure that we have clear understanding and also implementation about security and privacy, and also all the other elements that need to come together to make the AI responsible. So yeah, I talked about the compliance with laws and regulations. That is something that is essential. As I said, there are some regulations that are already out there. Some more are coming. I would say that the vendors, and for us especially, it's especially important as we have customers all around the globe, need to make sure that we are aware what is happening in the United States, what is happening in the EU and Europe in general, and Australia and any other countries where our customers are based or operate, and make sure that they can use our technology in a compliant way, and in some way we can also help them being compliant with regulations by using our technology. So and to do that, we also evangelize the benefits of AI and responsible AI. To start with, we are producing a lot of articles, blogs, and also being partners of different industry groups that are in charge of creating standards in this area. We are part of, for example, Cybersecurity Tech Accord, which is a industry group that works hard on protecting consumers and users worldwide. And we are also part of different working groups that create and work on standards for secure AI. So all of that, and we need to be very vocal about it, because we feel like we are one part of the entire channel, let's say, from the vendors providing foundational models through us as implementers to the actual users using the AI model. We really want to be vocal about addressing those issues all along the way.
Yeah, I mean, this really is a bit of a new frontier, but I think that you do a great job of evangelizing some of the principles of responsible AI. And I recommend anyone in the audience to follow Maciej on LinkedIn to see any information that you share has been very helpful. But with that said, I'm also curious, who do you think is responsible for responsible AI within an organization? Is it primarily the CISO's role, or who's responsible?
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and I did mention that earlier, that some of the responsible AI principles are under CISO's umbrella, definitely security, and in many organizations also privacy. But I think ensuring that you have proper stakeholder involvement from all the other areas, whether it's legal, technology, even HR, marketing, all those areas, to kind of gather all those different perspectives and work collaboratively on creating responsible AI governance. It is something that is a key. So I will say that CISO is definitely an important stakeholder in the process, but it goes a little bit beyond just security and CISO's area of responsibility, because it really requires collaboration. And I think that kind of the working groups or committees, or horizontal groups, or however they are called in different organizations, that bring those experts together. Those could be really the key for success, really in terms of implementing AI in a secure way.
Sure. Yeah, great. Well, thank you, Matej. This has been very informative. But to round things out, it'd be great if you could talk a little bit about some of the resources we have for our audience around responsible AI and our approach to AI.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we offer is our trust and governance page that outlines our approach to security, privacy, and also responsible AI. Shows different artifacts, whether it's certifications, industry memberships, or really reports that we white papers and such that we provide to our customers to showcase our compliance with all those principles, as well as our approach to securing their data, because that's kind of the most important asset in question. And that is also supported by our trust center, which can be accessed by any potential or existing customer, or just by the general public, where we also make very transparent, or where we provide all our certification reports, where we provide our penetration testing reports, certificates, even like policy samples and pre-filled questionnaires for procurement and security scores and all of that sort. So that's available for our customers as well. And of course, as I said, we do provide and produce a lot of content on our blog. So make sure to follow us on social media if you are interested in these areas. And you can subscribe to our blog as well, where we always publish some interesting materials on the topic.
Yeah, I have to say I'm quite impressed with the cadence with which new material is being released. It's really great coverage. So
thank you
once again, Matej, thank you for your time today. It was extremely informative, and thank you to the audience for coming and listening today.
Thank you very much.